About a year ago, I used the brand new Octarius Death Corps of Krieg squad to make a kill team of Genestealer cult operatives. Now that the new Cadia Stands set is on release for the Astra Militarum, I'm going to show you how to do the same thing again using parts from the Genestealer cult kits and the new Cadian command squad. Thanks to Games Workshop for sending me the set to look at in advance. The first thing to think about is the scale. The new guardsmen definitely are a slightly taller scale, but they're not so much that the other parts, arms, heads, etc. look out of scale on them, and in fact parts like the Acolyte hybrids are still too large for these bodies. Stick to the end of the video to see some size comparisons with other more popular models. I wanted to replicate the functionality of the command squad with my guys where possible, so I started out making an officer or leader for the group. The conversion was a simple one, using a close combat weapon from the Neophyte kit, along with the head from the Saboteur character. I also went through and defaced the Imperial icons on her armour, and I added a cult symbol hanging from her chestplate. Symbol conversions like this draw the models into the Genestealer cult faction whilst maintaining their roots, showing how the insidious uprisings start. Since I had the model out, I next worked on the Saboteur. Using the arms from the Cadian officer, I built her up really quickly. It's a useful tip when you're kit bashing to just sort of swap arms and heads around between two kits, so you don't waste anything and you end up with two characterful models. The Saboteur will be a commissar in my army, I think. Next up is the Icon Bearer. These pieces are some of my favourite in all of the kits, so I knew I wanted to include one. It's on the other arm of the model that had originally had the banner, so I took a different arm from the set to make sure he still had a weapon. When it came to adding heads, there's two types of cult heads. The upgrades for the Guard kit and the Neophyte heads. The upgrade heads have necks that you'll need to shave down, but the Neophyte heads fit perfectly. For my medic, I wanted to incorporate an actual claw arm, so I cut up an Acolyte double claw and I used that in place of his normal arm, as well as using a makeshift autogun instead of a lasgun, hinting at the fact that the supply chains might not be as well set up now that the cult has revealed itself. The radio operator and veteran fighters were both simple head swaps. These models are so cool already. I love the Power Fist and the medal that this guy has, and so I didn't really need to add much. With the models complete, I was really happy with my simple conversions. These models are really characterful, and they fit in really well with the models that I already have for this army. Now I just needed to paint them. My paint scheme has a somewhat rebellious vibe. I started with a grey primer. I used Halford's Grey, but you can use Grey Seer or even Mechanicus Standard Grey for slightly different looks. I then went through and I applied base coats to all of the areas, using normal acrylic paints, apart from for the grey coats, where I used Basilicanum Grey contrast paint. Once you have a couple of coats on, I used Agrax Earthshade over most of the colours, Druchii Violet for the skin, and Nuln Oil in a couple of places. I actually used the old version of Agrax Earthshade for most of them. I tried the new one on the Commissar character just to test it. I found that you kind of need two coats to match the coverage and the griminess of the old version, and that the finish is really quite different. It's much more satin than the matte of the old version. Luckily, I have some of the old Agrax left to match these guys to my other squads. If you don't, it still looks good, it still looks great, you just might not look exactly like this. The paint job from here is nothing special, mostly adding simple highlights of the base colour or one shade lighter, making sure to leave the wash in the folds and shadowy areas to make the models feel grimy. I then quickly did the bases in a grey sand or ash style. I just painted it grey and then dry brushed it a couple of lighter greys. And then these guys are ready to join the cult uprising. Here are some quick size lineups with other models in my collection. As you can see, they're generally just a slight amount bigger than Neophytes, but they fit in well to the sort of updated scaling of 40k. The Possessed Marine still towers over them. These models fit in perfectly with my other squads, the Krieg and the Neophytes. The variation will make the army kind of look ragtag and undersupplied, whilst keeping the colours consistent makes the units seem like they're part of a larger whole. I really enjoyed converting these guys, and I can't wait to get started on the infantry and other units in the Cadia Stands box. The set seems like it's going to be a great starting point. Thanks for watching this video. Let me know what your plans are for the new guard models in the comments, and please do subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this project. Thanks!